Everyone, good morning. So we're pretty excited to be here today and talk a little bit about how UX designers and developers can better collaborate, and also give you the first public preview of a product that we've been working on for a while now called Unite UX. It's a product designed to do just that. We're going to start with some slides, a few slides. I'll take about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we're going to get into some demos. So I'm joined here by Svetlin and Radoslav. Svetlin's our Director of UX for all of Developer Tools, and Radoslav is our Engineering Manager and Principal Engineer for Unite UX. They'll be taking you on a demo of the product. And at the end, we'll do a bit of a wrap-up, and if we have time, we'll do some questions and answers. So if you have questions, jot them down. We'll hopefully get to address them at the end. So over the last 6 to 8 months, we've been speaking with customers of Developer Tools and asking them what pains they experience with modern application development. And we started to hear common themes come up over and over again. And I'm going to share with you the 3 pains that we pinpointed that just came up constantly from these customers. Now, obviously, a wide variety of pains came up, but the ones that we continued to hear about, we'll get into. So looking at the SDLC, this is a diagram that you're all probably very familiar with. And the areas that we consistently were hearing pains around were between the collaboration between the planning and design phase and the development phase, right? So just by a quick show of hands, anyone in the room experience pains between designers and developers, between UX design and developers right now? Wow, okay, so for the record, because I think we're recording this, that was almost everyone in the crowd. Okay. So let's get into the pains that we started to hear. The first pain was around gaps in the collaborative process. So we want to understand why are there gaps in the collaborative process. So to start, designers, as Yogesh mentioned briefly, that designers are working in they're speaking different languages, they're in a different tool set. Designers are working in tools like Sketch and Adobe XD and InVision, and these tools output images, right? And developers are working in IDEs like Visual Studio Code, and the input of these is code. So you've got, on one hand, images that are being handed off to developers. Developers take those images and they do their best to code them, right? But those images don't convey everything all the time. They don't convey all the subtleties that the UX designer has intended, right? Things like that 1 pixel stroke around the button, things like that hover state, they don't always get conveyed with an image. Now, sometimes you have interactions, and the interactions are presented to the developer as well. And sometimes the developer gets hexadecimal color codes, and they get dimensions, and they get pieces of it, but they don't get the entire picture. And they have to translate that into code. And oftentimes, the net result of this is slower iterations, a lot of iterations, and wasted cycles and artifacts, right? There's a lack of feedback, transparency, and there's no single source of truth. If you ask a UX designer, their single source of truth is what they output. And if you ask the developer, the single source of truth is the code. But there's no real single source of truth. And the net result of all that is the Big Mac slide. So yeah, I mean, designers have designed this great looking hamburger, and what you get from developers is the smushed down Big Mac, right? But the reality is no one's really to blame here. The designer's Big Mac looks wonderful, right? But to the designer, when that Big Mac is implemented the way that you see it on the other side, they're frustrated, right? Designers are incredibly frustrated because they're picture of what this application could have been it wasn't seen through to its fullest potential. And who suffers? Users. The users suffer, right? And to the developer, the designer has provided them this outlandish design that they just can't implement, right? So let me pause for a minute. Who in the crowd has experienced gaps in the collaborative process where the application that was designed didn't end up looking like the application that was developed? Okay, good amount. Looks like we got 30%, 40%. Okay. Yes, yep, we'll do a Q&A at the end. So the next pain that we heard from the conversations that we've had over the last 6 to 8 months was that there's a struggle for consistency and productivity, right? A lot of enterprise organizations are building diverse sets of applications. Some of these are legacies, some have been acquired, some they're just building right now. Each of these applications are being developed by different teams. Those teams have different skill sets. And there's a lot of duplication of efforts, right? So your UX designer is designing screens that you may want to use across multiple applications. Those applications are based on different technology stacks, and the look and feel and behavior of those applications will end up differing quite a bit, right? So to the end user, in a line of business application, you have end users that are using all these applications, and there's a lack of consistency between those applications. In the consumer-facing application, you're building different pieces of the application, and you're going to have inconsistency within the same application, but different parts of the application, different screens, right? So this again, duplication of effort and inconsistent user experience, this is a big pain point. So again, have you guys felt that pain? Yeah. Okay. And the last pain is architecting for high churn and flexibility. Framework fatigue, right? There's so many different frameworks out there. You might have started with jQuery, now you're working with Angular, AngularJS maybe, now Angular, thinking about React. What's this Vue? Vue sounds pretty cool, right? Blazor, any Blazor users in the crowd? Anyone thinking about using Blazor? Oh, okay, a few thinking. Okay, right? So from an architecture standpoint, how do you build the future agility in the architecture of today, right? It's another pain. So one last question for the crowd. Does this pain resonate? Yeah. Yep. Okay. So in designing a product, we took a step back, we got all this feedback, and we said, look, we've been in the UI space for 15 years. We're very well positioned to come up with a solution that can help bridge the gap between design and development. And we wanted to focus on the gaps in the collaborative process. But in doing so, we wanted to ensure that we addressed the other two pains that we're hearing from our customers. So how do we do that? We built a diagram. Okay. So starting from the left, we are integrating with existing design tools. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to create a design tool. Design tools that are out there are really good. Sketch, Adobe XD, InVision, Axure, UXPin, these are all great tools. So we're plugging into these tools. And to start, we're plugging into Sketch and Adobe XD. These are the ones that we've identified from our users, from qualitative and quantitative data, that these are the ones to go for first. Within these tools, we're providing design libraries for Kendo UI. So all you Kendo UI users, you'll be able to have those design libraries in those tools, so your UX designers know exactly how the Kendo UI components will look within those tools. They can easily drag and drop grids and charts and so on into their designs. They can theme them within these tools, and they can customize them within the screens that they build. But we don't want to tie it to just Kendo UI. We wanted to provide this to be very flexible for users that both use Kendo UI and additional third-party components, and people that don't even use Kendo UI. We want the ability for people to bring their own design frameworks into this tool. So we've created the ability to create custom components within this tool. So what that means is the designer will design the custom component in Sketch, the developer will create schemas in the Unite UX piece, and together they'll work seamlessly within the product. And this is something we were going to show in the demo, but I don't think we're going to have enough time in the demo today. So if you're interested in the custom component piece, come by our booth and you can check that out because we have that to show you. So out of the design tool, we've also built in a plugin to that design tool that allows you to export to this MetaBridge format. That MetaBridge format is then consumed into Unite UX Studio, which is a standalone cross-platform application. So in Unite UX Studio, you import the MetaBridge, and that design gets instantly translated into a fully working Angular application from design to code. For launch, we'll also have support for React. So when you bring it into Unite UX, you'll be asked, do you want to take this into, do you want to build an Angular application, or do you want to build a React application, right? You can take the same screens and generate an Angular React application and then import them again and create a React application. Also, all the design libraries for Kendo UI and all the custom components that you've built on the design side will be translated into the actual components in the code. And there's a lot of application business logic that we've included. Default, globalization, authentication, role support, CRUD support, and so on is all auto-generated for you. And most importantly is the ability to extend. So we are providing the ability to extend the HTML, to extend the CSS, and all while having a round-trip experience. So when your front-end developers say, you know what, UX designer, I think you're wrong. I think this should be over here. I think this should be a different type of graph. They can make that suggested change back to the designer. The designer can then import that MetaBridge file back into their design tool, and the suggested change will show up, allowing the designer to say, yes, I agree, but it needs to be changed, or no, I don't agree. It should be this, or some happy medium. But it fosters that collaboration through that round-trip experience. So with that, we will, there is a contest that you just saw us slip up. So yeah, with that, I'll call up Svetlin, our Director of UX, to take you on a brief tour of Unite UX Studio.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, round of applause for Dan. So guys, you saw the concept, and now I'm going to take you through the process. The assets that we provide essentially are native library files for Sketch. We're starting with Sketch. We are adding Adobe XD down the road, and many other UX tools. So we have our components. The Kendo UI components that are coming out of the box. Database components, inputs, heavy components like grid, like charts, like pickers, and these components are fully customizable in terms of theming. We're using the built-in theming mechanism of Kendo UI, and we have exposed this mechanism in Sketch. And also, we'll start providing templates, getting started templates that you can use to bootstrap your application design, or just start from these templates, customizing them, and have a great result in a matter of hours. So the first thing that you do is to download the plugin and install the library files to Sketch. So we have already pre-installed the library in Sketch, and we can start creating our new design. So we go and create an artboard, and as you see here in the insert component menu, we have all the Can-Do UI components available. So we can start adding them to our design. First, we can start adding our navigation sidebar. We have logo, our progress logo. Then we need a data grid. So we're choosing probably grid with filtering. All those components are available in their different properties tag. So you can choose what kind of grid do you want to use, and it would be properly presented here. So we need some means of editing the grid. So we can create a property panel that we can use to edit the grid. It would be a very simple view of an application, and we are still in alpha. So what you see isn't pixel perfect as we transfer it, but we are getting there with the latest release. So we can add some inputs. So we'll have an ID for our customers. We also can add first name, last name. We add an additional input that is in the correct state that we want it. And we duplicate those two to have the entry for the last name. Okay, and we need to add a couple of buttons just to make sure we save the results of our editing. So we add save button, and through the built-in functionality of Sketch, we are making use of the override functionality to just put the correct labeling, and also we are working with typography to provide this pixel perfect result for the implemented application. We add another button for cancel. And make sure this is on top. And also one more thing, probably we can add to this view user activity and present it with our data-viz components. Chart area chart would be appropriate here. So we use it. And now that we have our initial view of this very, very simple application in terms of time, we don't have time just to present anything more advanced, but you're welcome at the booth to show you the full functionality of the product. And right now, as the designers are working with absolute positioning, and we are having a fully responsive application that is created from our configurator, we need to make sure that this design can be translated in terms of layout. So we trigger our Unite UX plugin, and in its UI, we have the ability to group in horizontal, vertical, and show what the content is for the specific view. So right here we have our navigation. We have our grids and charts that are a vertical stack, and the navigation is another stack, and we have our property grids that should be grouped just to make sure that the responsive layout is working in the way that we imagine. And when we are done with this simple grouping, we assign this area here to be the content area that is going to be changed throughout the application, because the navigation would be global. So we mark it as a content. Okay, so we are ready, and we are ready to save our first simple design. Let's go with progress users. Once we've saved the design file, we can export it to Unite UX Studio, and we create this MetaBridge JSON file that holds all the properties, all the states of the elements and the control that we're using. And we're good to go. From a design perspective, we've done our job, fairly simple. And then we're heading this to our front ends and developers. So welcome, Rado, to show you.
Thank you for creating this beautiful design, even you don't have much time. So now let's open the Unite UX Studio. As Dan said, it's a multi-platform application built on top of Electron Shell. So here we can create a new application or import existing one. Since Sneak exported the application, I will import it here. Progress user. And the application is imported. Let's go into the application. So here we have two main parts of the application. We have data providers, which are used for data connectivity and getting the data from different data sources. Currently, we support local data provider, which is a single JSON data, and also generic REST API services. The other main part is the modules. They map directly to the pages into the sketch, and each artboard from the sketch page is mapped to views. We have a built-in application model which has 4 predefined views. The first one is for application layout. Currently we support only one layout per application, but in the future we have plans to add other layouts. So if you have different modules in the application, we can assign different master pages for these modules. The other views are landing page, login, and unauthorized page. The page that Svetlin created is here. It's named the same as into the sketch artboard, and here is the grid, the date form on the right, the chart, and this is the visual representation of the metadata. Here are the Kendo components, but the application is not generated. In order to generate the application and to produce first class in this example Angular application, we need to hit this generate button, which will start generating process. The first generation is a little bit slow because we're installing the Node modules, and as you know, Node modules are a lot for Angular, but any other generation will be much faster, for example, for a second or two. Yes, yes, yeah. It generates first-class application following Angular rules. It's a human-readable code. It's not something that developers cannot understand. It's like top application written from top developers. So the application is generated, and now I will start preview server, which is a Webpack dev server, and it will host the application and open my default browser in order to see the application. And Sneak, I think you didn't group correctly. Yeah. Yeah, you put the navigation as a horizontal container.
Sorry, guys, my bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have fixed in Alpha 2.
Okay. The Webpacks compile the Angular application. Compilation is finished. And now the default browser is opened. Yeah, this is the application. The menu is, because Sneak marked this as a horizontal container, it is represented as a row. Yeah. Here are the chart and the grid. We prepared, as I said, a simple data provider with simple data source in order everything to work and to be presented for the first time. And now I will change different parts. For example, I don't want so many records here in the grid, and I will change them to smaller number, for example, 5. This is the data source attached to the view. Every view can have more than one data source in order to bind to different tables, for example, different components. Okay, and now let's make the grid editable with this data form here. In the standard case, if I need to create a grid with a separate form, first I need to go to the component vendor website to find documentation, find API, find how to perform selection, how to get the model from selected row. Then in the context of Angular, I need to go to their documentation to see which type of forms, reactive or standard form, I need to use, how to attach data to components, and so on and so on. Here in the studio, this is pretty easy. You need just to select the grid. Okay, just to select the grid, and here is the properties. Here are the properties of the grid. I need just to enable selection, then I need to attach the grid to the model of data source attached to the view, and then select the properties of this model which I'm attaching component for editing. This will be first name, this will be last name. Sorry. Yeah, first name. This is the last name, and this field here is an ID. As you see, this is a disabled text box because the IDs cannot be edited directly. And now I need just to generate, in order to regenerate the application, so the generation is much faster. Now let's refresh the page and see if the grid is with decreased page number, and we can select records. I reverted the first change. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Live code on the alpha.
Yeah, this is an alpha, yeah. Till the compilation, I will show you the generated files. This is the related to the view files. here on the right side. You have absolutely human readable HTML file, human readable Angular component related to the view, following any guideline provided for Angular and for TypeScript, different extension points, and so on. So yeah, here is the grid. When I select different rows, the data here is loaded. If I change something, it's simultaneously changing the grid because they share the same data model. So I need just to attach click event to the button and hit the update method of my data source. But I don't think we have time for this. But Sneak, I don't like this reddish color here. Can you change it to something more greener? Yeah, because our logo is different.
I think you're absolutely right. We should use our branding colors, our branding palette. So yeah, let's make this change using the theming mechanism that is available in our components and also in Sketch. So we start by creating a duplicate theme that we'll edit, and this will be our progress theme. And once we have this new instance of the theme, we are going to attach to the document, and the thing that we are exposing are the colors from the color palette of our control suits that can be directly selected and edited as a sketch asset. So we choose our green, and we update it as an accent color. And as you see, all the symbols and components that are using this color are updated. So once we save this and go to our design, what we need to do is to switch the design to our new theme. We get the warning in Sketch that we have an update available to the components, and after we update them, they're all using apart from something that I haven't selected probably, are using the new theme. So basically, when we export this to Unite UX Studio, we'll get the new theming also reflected there.
Can you hit the generate button for me in the studio?
Yeah, sure.
Even UX guys can.
Sure. I can do it.
And open the browser to see the change. Yeah.
The name didn't change? Is that what happened?
Sorry?
The name didn't change, so you just pulled in the one that
Yeah,
updated it. Okay.
yeah, because we already know what this application is and what view is, and just getting the update.
Yeah, the green.
And here we go.
The green theme is here.
Yeah, and even the button is reflected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think we don't have time for anything else.
Okay, I've got maybe a wrap-up slide about a contest or something like that. But yeah, thanks guys. That was very cool. One thing to keep in mind as you see this is the design between Sketch and I know Radoslav mentioned this already, but the design that you see between Sketch and what gets generated right now is not pixel perfect. Our goal is for pixel perfection, but this is an alpha. The CSS being fully brought over into Unite UX Studio is on the roadmap for this summer. So that's why you're seeing an application that doesn't look exactly like what was designed in Sketch, but we're giving you a very early preview, and there's no smoke and mirrors here. This is the actual state of the alpha. So my disclaimer. All right. Oh, did that close? You close my PowerPoint. All right. I'll just kind of come back to where we were. Oh yeah. So our contest. So this is, we probably have more developers. Show of hands. Developers. Who's developer? Okay, this is most people. Okay, hands down. UX designer. Okay, so we have a few UX designers. So, by the way, everything that Svetlin was showing in Sketch, this is probably very familiar to you UX designers, and you developers were probably like, what is this application that he's bouncing around in? But fear not, from a UX designer's perspective, for the few of you that are in the room, they'll be very comfortable in there. This is a great tool for UX designers. So that if a developer in the room ends up winning this, then give it to your UX designer. You're going to win major points. But this is a drawing tablet, so it kind of replaces a mouse. If you come down to our booth, we'll scan you, and we are going to be giving this away. Make sure you get scanned by Thursday at noon. We'll give this away Thursday at 1 p.m. at our booth. It's during lunch, so lunch in the expo area are all in the same area, so just pop on by at 1 p.m. You have to be there to win, so we'll just keep calling names until someone wins. So come by, let us scan you, and you can enter to win. Also worth noting, we have an early preview program that's available. If you go to our website, progress.com/unite-ux, you can register to get on the wait list for the early preview program. Right now, it's in very limited hands, but we expect sometime in the later summer to extend that early preview to some of the folks who have signed up for that wait list. So if you want to get your hands on this early, you can do so on our website. So with that, we'll take questions. If there are questions, just ask. I'll repeat the question, and have either myself, Svetlin, Rado, or we have Ivan, who's our architect, our front-end architect in the crowd. We may sling a question over to him as well if there were any. Yeah.
So can you go back to the hamburger slide?
Go back to the hamburger slide, absolutely.
And if you could talk about source of truth, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. That's a really interesting point about psychological safety. I mean, it's probably a point better put to Rado or maybe Ivan. Yeah, Ivan, hey, come up.
So when the developer doesn't know the CSS, it's not his job. It's the front-end developer's job. And that's why on the team that we're working currently, we have me, I'm a front-end developer. We have Svetlin, he's a designer, and we have Rado, who is also a developer. So when we make the product, we make it so that each aspect of the job gets covered completely. So if the developer doesn't know how to do something, and the designer has created something with our component, it's already been taken care of. It's like he doesn't need to change anything. If it's something visual, we'll translate it. If the developer happens to be a front-end developer and the application needs fine tweaking, yes, he'll be able to do it. It's like one of the files that were listed outside the view. We had a SCSS file. We use Sass for precompiling, so if somebody is comfortable enough to write in the Sass file, he will be able to do it. So that's our point of view, that there are 4 specific roles in the Unite UX Studio. Like each role has their own job to do. It's like the developer, the designer, the front-end developer, and the business person. So did that kind of answer your question about the psychological breakdown? Yeah.
Delineation, responsibilities.
Yes. Because we can't make designers code and we can't make developers do design. And we don't want to push anyone. We want everyone to stay in their, comfort zone. Yeah. And that's why we do things that way.
We're just trying to make it easy for each of the roles.
Yeah, precisely.
But yeah, on just to add a little more color to that, I think that's an interesting point. There may be some organizations that doesn't have the structure that we have, where someone is too proud to say they don't know and they don't have that team to support them. It's an interesting point, and it's probably very real. A product like this can help solve that because it'll be pixel perfection from design to development. But when a developer says, gets a design like the nice looking Big Mac and says, we can't do that, that would be probably the reaction you hear is, we can't do that, versus it's going to take a lot of time. Right? You might hear, no, we can't do that. This is what we can do. You might hear something like that. And that might be underneath it all. It might be the fact that they don't know how to do it, or they don't have the top-notch CSS skills to achieve what UX had designed. I know you had a second part to the question, but let's catch. I know we had a couple questions to follow up with you. I want to give others in the crowd a chance to speak. Yes. Do we generate native script with this? No, we do not. We are generating right now Angular, and for launch we'll also generate React. We're focused on web. We are considering PWA, but the way we've designed this product is it will be the sketch portion, and the exporting of that meta bridge is something that will be able to export into Kinvey Studio for your NativeScript application. So that's the mobile approach with NativeScript. Will be through Kinvey Studio, but Kinvey Studio will be able to consume the MetaBridge format. So you'll be able to go from design using that product as well. Yes?
Can you adjust, so you do the code, can you actually adjust the code that was generated?
Okay, so the question is, can you adjust the code that was generated? Yes, you can adjust it. So we give recommendations on how to adjust it. Like, here's where you enter the business logic. Here's where you extend the CSS. Here's where you extend the HTML. You can take our advice and have the round trip experience, or you can take the application that's been generated and essentially break the round trip experience and edit it as you see. Yeah, I mean the round tripping is obviously incredibly tricky for these guys to build, and that's why we have to utilize.
Certain areas like you can have fun and go crazy. Certain areas you don't. That's what just
exactly. Exactly, and during the round trip experience, when you regenerate the application, so it might come back to Svetlin, he'll update the UX, you'll regenerate the code. None of the areas that we said don't edit over here, none of those areas will be overwritten, so you have all your business logic, right? Yes. Okay, so for the first question, can you tweak the Webpack? Who's best to answer that? Radoslav? All right.
Yes, this is totally possible. You can create your own Webpack, which will be merged with the default generated Webpack, so you can overwrite any setting from the Webpack. Also, you can create your own package.json. If you need to add third-party components, you can overwrite the Angular CLI or any part. We have 100% extensibility on any portion.
Great. And the second part of your question regarding using other IDEs like WebStorm, you can use any IDE to edit this code. So you would use Unite UX Studio to maintain the MetaBridge format, but then you can open up the code that's generated in the IDE of your choice. So it could be WebStorm, it could be VS Code, it could be whatever you'd like. Yes?
I can answer this. We're using.
Let me just repeat the question for the recording. For the design library, are we using our own icon library?
So what we showed here is CanDoUI components, right? That is integrated into the application, and CanDoUI components, they come with our own font, and it can be replaced with any font that you want, be it Font Awesome or Google Material Font or whatever. We are supporting this. And also, as we've already mentioned, we are not tied to CanDoUI. So in our extensibility story, you can replace our components with your own. If you build your own components, you just have to make sure to have the design for them and to create this meta bridge linking between those in order to the story to work. So basically, every part is replaceable. Thank you.
We just got time for one more. We'll have to do one more. And then you can just follow up with us as we unpack. Yes. Yes. That round trip experience where the sketch file changes after modification in Unite UX Studio, that functionality is scheduled to be done this summer. Yeah. So we're looking at a fall release for the product. Okay, that wraps it up. If there are any other questions, there's a survey. Please fill it out. Yeah, thank you all very much.